Hey, welcome to Growing a Fruitful Brand, where we discuss how to create and grow a brand that makes the world a better place for you, your customers, and your employees. I'm Ben Luters, founder and art director of Fruitful Design and Strategy, and this is my business partner and brand strategist, Raj Lula. So Raj, where have we been? Where did we go?
Well, we just got so famous as podcasters that we had to avoid the mobs. Was really happening. Now, I mean, as people might remember from one of our episodes early in the year, we completely restructured Fruitful this year, and you and I really wanted to get back into the creative work, and we found that at the size that we were being drawn into management more than creative work, and so it was necessary both for business strategy and for personal satisfaction for us to restructure the team so that we were working more with contractors and only managing people when we needed them per project, and less in the trying to grow an empire kind of thing.
Exactly. And so what that meant for like us practically is you and I, we're doing a lot of the creative work ourselves, which can be really fulfilling and a lot of fun, but it can also take a lot of time and energy as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that it worked. Then, what we set out to do this year, which was be more in the creative work, worked. And I think that our clients benefited from it. I mean, how do you feel about how it's gone?
I mean, seriously, I feel actually very, very satisfied and fulfilled by how it's gone. It's been just a lot of fun to work more directly with clients. To be doing a lot more of the hands-on design work, really sharpening those skills. And so, in a lot of ways it's been great, but it has made it hard to, be able to do all of these kinds of things. But that being said, we're excited to get back into it today.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, very similar. I feel like it's been great to be back directly in nearly all creative work that's happening for Fruitful and with our clients. The other one drawback, I think, is that, we have been working from home and there's been less of this. That's actually been another reason why we're actually
working from a home right now, possibly. You can notice it's a little cozier around here, but that's not all bad too. There's kind of, pros and cons to every way that you work. Yeah. And, for me, working from home has meant like being around my family a lot more. We homeschool, and so I've just been around them, going for walks in the afternoon. But then, of course, you're also working from home, and your kids are there, and there's parenting moments and other things like that. And so it's easy to kind of get out of the swing of things as well.
I've kind of had the opposite, where my kids go to school, and my wife is a teacher, and so pretty much from 7, 8 o'clock every morning till they get home, I'm on my own. And
he starts talking to his dog. I've actually witnessed that a little bit today. So
I mean, that probably would happen anyway. But
that's true.
It is funny. I will say that two things have changed for me that I didn't think would change.
What's that?
One was, our friends over at Flywheel, now WP Engine, they've always had like a dog-friendly office thing. And, Lindsay has brought our dog to the office a couple of times when we've had traditional offices. Yeah. It was always fun. It was like, oh, it's weird and nice to see the dog. Right. Kind of like seeing your teacher outside of school or something. But
yeah, that can be weird.
So I now totally get it. Like, I love having my dog here, and she'll kind of sit behind my desk sometimes, or I trained her actually to sit in the chair opposite my desk early in the year, just so she could hang out. And then the other thing that I've changed on is during the pandemic, the athleisure wear thing was like a much bigger thing. And I, as you know, have always been like a button-up kind of guy. I love the sport coat, but it also just doesn't make as much sense in your house. And so
I think you have found like the perfect balance. Doesn't Raj look great, guys? He's got this like it looks cozy, but it looks comfy, and it also looks professional.
But it's got a collar.
It's got a collar, yeah. Exactly.
The shacket is what we're going.
The shacket. What we're doing. I love that shacket is now a thing. And I think Dog Raj is like my new favorite Raj. I feel like this is like a version of you haven't seen. And so what you guys can't see is we've actually set up like a little mini like office off to the side where we can both work together here. And so we're making it work. And it's actually been a lot of fun. But what I want to know, Raj, is, I'm not a dog owner. I don't have a dog. Is this a lizard-friendly office? Can I bring my lizards or turtles? Because we have 2 lizards and 2 turtles due to my wife's allergies. That's all we've got. Is this a lizard-friendly space?
As long as they're on a leash.
As long as they're on a leash. Oh, man. That is exactly the kind of lizard owner that I am, is the kind of lizard owner that has my lizards on a leash at all times.
Do you bring the waste bags with you as well?
Oh, my goodness. This could all be making an appearance in our next podcast. So.
Yes. Yeah. the menagerie. With all that in mind, I do think that we've really enjoyed being back in the creative work this year.
Yeah.
We've now solved a lot of the challenges of working from home, and I think one question that we get a lot is just sort of like, how are you guys doing? Because we made a dramatic move, there is sort of this like, are we in trouble sort of thing?
Yeah. Especially if the podcast goes silent for a few minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which was ironically because we were busy.
I was starting to ask that. So where are these guys?
But yeah, I mean, how would you maybe talk about that? Like how have things been going? What kind of work have we been doing this year? Are we still the same company?
Yeah, I mean, I think to answer that last question, I think we are and we aren't. You know, I think there are some things that have never changed. And I think that, we're doing some of this, a lot of the same kinds of work, but it is different now. I think our trajectory is different, and we're really, really refining the way that we work. I think we had a great time a couple months ago, us, and we flew out our project manager, Michelle. Hey, Michelle, probably doesn't listen to this, but it was actually our first time meeting her in person. We went to Nashville, and it was really fun to kind of like really hone in on our process. And so I think like we're doing a lot of the same things, but trying to really refine them and try to figure out a way to make them work in a really efficient way that's really kind of, makes our clients the hero. But I think the other fun thing that kind of came out of that as well, and some of our time talking about that, is that there are some specific things that we do. Some of them are things we've always done that we don't really talk about much, that we don't try to sell much, but then we realize like, oh man, we're really good at this. We really love this, and it's really helpful for our clients. And so I hope we get into some of that stuff today.
Yeah. So let's talk first about what's the same. So you said some things are the same, some things are different. What's the same? Especially because people, I think, a little bit worried that when we took the sign off the downtown office, like, oh my gosh, are they going away? And so like, what's the same? What do we still do?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still a design and strategy company, and I think we're still committed to growing something good for our clients.
Yeah, and along those lines, a lot of that primarily has been this year through branding, websites, and messaging. Yeah. That has not changed. We're still a story brand certified agency, so it's not it's not like we're making fake badges or anything. And no, we're still a legit full
very
service
much so
agency. But I mean, to your point, some things have changed in the sense that actually largely for the better. I've done way more of the actual copywriting for our clients this year,
right?
And you have done all of the design for the clients here, with minor exceptions of times that we've brought in people who are really great at lettering or people who are really great at certain types of illustration or animation or whatever. But I mean, the vast majority of the work has been done by us. So that's changed.
Why we got into this in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And so I think for me, Raj and I have talked about this, obviously, not having, that dedicated office space, there's been challenges. But like, this is what I signed up for initially. It was like, I wanted to do graphic design and solve people's problems through the power of design. And I think you got into this similarly through the magic of words and your like superpower of strategy. And so it's really fulfilling to be spending the primary amount of your time, most of your time in work, doing the thing that you love and feel most confident in.
Yeah. Now, I would say one of the major things that's changed is that beginning of this year, we talked about how we were going to this 30-day brand sprint model.
Yeah.
And we intended for the entire year to be project after project, back to back, one client at a time, branding, messaging, website, all in 30 days. And that's still a product that we offer.
Right.
However, what I didn't anticipate was that 2024 was an election year. And part of the reason I didn't anticipate that is
we should have known. We should have known.
Well, everybody says that election years are weird, but I officially started at Fruitful in 2017, so I missed the 2016 election. We were working together through that time.
Yeah.
But I wasn't responsible for business development or strategy or any of that. We were doing work alongside each other at that time. And 2020 was also a presidential election year, but I don't know if you remember, that one was a little bit
lot
weird.
of things. That was like the least of your concerns.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people too, is that the world was upside down at that point. And weirdly for us during that time, we were very, very busy because everybody was so upside down and
pivoting their messages.
Yeah, going online. Yeah. There were so many things, and we were already set up in some ways to do remote work. But, one thing that's very different about that season versus this season is that we can meet with clients in person. And we love doing that. And we can meet with each other and collaborate in person. And we can, fly out and meet with our project manager, and we can all be in places whenever we want to, really. And and so while we did get a taste of this way of working in 2020, we didn't. It's not the same because we're not being forced to and even honestly things like just being able to go to the grocery store or go to the movies, work from home the first time was very stressful in a lot of ways because it was both working from home and it was isolation at the same time.
Oh, sure.
And this is a whole different concept, but not all to say, so 2024 election year, and everybody says, a lot of people hold on to their dollars a little bit tighter. They're not as ambitious. They want to kind of wait to see how things shake out. And certainly,
was that true?
Yeah. I mean, it was that people were just not really fully ready to do a whole rebrand, a whole website, whatever. We found a lot of clients kind of almost sheepishly asking us, "Hey, do you guys still just I need a brochure? Do you guys still?" Will you just do my website without having to do the whole 30 days? And it's like, yes, of course we will. Yes, we still will.
I feel like we got a great response from people when we rolled that out. There was this is so cool. This is so awesome. And then there was a lot of people coming but can you still do this? I just need this little thing. Yeah. And the timing of that probably couldn't be worse because here we are, we're going all in. We're only doing these big, quick, speed-based projects. Yeah. And we felt everyone else slowing down. It's how can we do smaller things? How can we drag it out? How can we slow down a little bit? Because we don't know the uncertainty in the market, the uncertainty with the election.
Yeah. Interest rates still hadn't come down.
Interest rates. It's just we had great, a lot of people supporting us, verbally, and we did some of them, but it did not turn into everyone wants to do this. And so it really kind of caused us halfway through the year to be okay, so what do we do? What are we offering? Who are we? And what's our process? Yeah. And so, as I mentioned, the brand sprint is still an offering. Yes. But in order to give people that one-on-one attention, sometimes there's a little bit of you need to give us 2 or 3 weeks to wrap up with other clients so that we can start you May 1st, June 1st, whatever. Yeah, it becomes a scheduling thing at that point. Yep. Which we have a great project manager in Michelle, and so every time I've said, hey, this is something I want to bring on board, she's already figured out how to do it, basically. And, yes. And so the answer is yes, we're still doing that. And yes, we also still do everything else. And even some things that, we haven't talked about so much. Yeah. So, along those lines, let's talk about what were some of your favorite projects that you worked on this year? Yeah. Wow. First of all, there was a lot of them. Raj posed that question to me earlier this morning when we were kind of prepping, and I was just man, there's been so many. I've been able to do a lot of more custom illustration stuff. I think of the We Thrive magazine going right here. We've been doing this. We have this retainer with Children's Nebraska. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a quarterly magazine that we do for them. So I've done a handful of these now, but I get to do a bunch of full page illustrations. Raj writes a lot of this, and he strategizes a lot of the copy. So this is a lot of fun. There's a whole team that we get to work with. We get to meet with them regularly when we're working on it. And then we get to just have a lot of say creatively on what that should look like. I also did another really fun illustration project for Children's Nebraska that was not related to this. That was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, it was about the future vision, and that's such a great client to work with too, because when you are helping people who help children for a living,
and you get to use illustration and writing to do it. It's like
there's hardly more satisfying work that you can possibly do.
That's true. It's very satisfying. Some other ones are really fun. A couple new clients that have come on. So you've heard us say a million times that we're a StoryBrand certified agency. Well, we got to do our first project with StoryBrand, which was a lot of fun. Got to design some really cool swag that they sell at their conferences and stuff. I should have a sweatshirt on right now. But it was really fun. It was kind of a quick turnaround, but it was so much fun to do for StoryBrand and also Coach Builder, kind of a new offering that they have. And it was also a great opportunity for me to collaborate and bring in our old friend and hand lettering artist, Nick Fredrickson. So we got to collaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah.
The last one that kind of comes to mind, which we haven't been able to show any of this work quite yet, but we started doing some work for Ligonier Ministries, which is a longtime favorite organization of mine personally. And when we got the call from them, and we've had the opportunity to do some really cool stuff. We're about to come up with some swag things for one of their sub brands. And so it's just a lot of like cool design for really, really great people.
Yeah.
And it's just been fun to kind of get, in fact, right before we hopped over here, Raj was like, hey, do you want to record now or do you want to work? And I was in the middle of working on some stuff for them. I'm like, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So anything that can pull me away from this podcast, Raj, must be pretty good. What about you, Raj? What are some top projects that come to your mind?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we've really loved being in everything that we've done this year, and so it's almost difficult to nail them down. But one that stands out to me is we started the year with a 30-day brand sprint with CFO Systems, who we use as a client as well. We use them for their bookkeeping and financial services, and then they also became our client, and we got to do a 30-day brand sprint with them. Put up a beautiful new website that you designed.
Thank you.
And so that was a great project. We love working with those folks, and they are, one of Inc. magazine's fastest growing companies in the U.S. and just really great to help them, just push forward in their mission. Another one that stands out to me, I would say, is quite possibly my favorite project that I've done the whole year is our longtime friend and collaborator over at Access Period, Kristen Lowry, asked us to help create her keynote presentation. And as you know, I'm a huge fan of The West Wing, and that's
Oh, do I ever?
And my favorite character on The West Wing is Toby Ziegler. He's the White House speechwriter. He's the communications director, and it's funny when 13 or so years ago when I was communications director at Nebraska Christian College, it felt so cool to have my hero's job title, but it also didn't feel heroic at that time. I was, in the middle of having kids and just barely getting my feet wet in this world. Right. But with Kristen, you got to come in, outline her speech, help her write the speech word for word out. And then we created a beautiful deck for her as well. And, she texted me.
She's so hard to work with, though. Right?
Oh gosh, yeah.
That's the thing about Chris.
No, she's awesome.
I was just setting you up.
And she texted me after the first time and that she gave the talk, and she said people cried, actual tears. That was in her text message
of joy, right?
Yes. and then the second time she texted me and she said, "I've never given a better speech in my life."
Wow.
And that's amazing. I mean, that's why we do what we do, know? And our clients are out there doing such great work, whether it's, leading CFO Systems, whether it's leading nonprofit or making things or whatever. Sometimes it's easy to think that talking about those things comes naturally.
Right.
And when I can do the thing that I'm good at, which is words, for somebody, so that they don't have to think that they've got a conference coming up and they've got to give this breakout session or they've got to give a keynote and then spend hours and weeks suffering over it.
Right.
Because they feel like they have to do it by themselves. But instead they can bring us in for help with that. And then the great thing about it too is that you can use it over and over and over again.
Exactly.
I've heard Donald Miller give the StoryBrand keynote, I don't know, probably close to 50 times now. Mm-hmm. And for one, you always learn something because it's such a great keynote. And it's now a TED Talk, by the way.
I know, I just started watching that.
You can check out. And then but then the other thing is that, getting to stay on the same message. Everybody tends to think that you need to vary it up all the time. You need to have a podcast of your own or whatever in order to get your message out there. We cannot say enough times that we do branding, messaging, and websites in order to get people through. We still get calls.
But do you do websites though?
Exactly. Yeah.
It sounds crazy to us, but it's not crazy to others. And you think about, you put yourself in their shoes though.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of times that I forget what certain people do. You know, then they talk about it on LinkedIn all the time. Yeah. And it's like, what do they do again? It's like we're all living our own story, and it's easy to miss.
Yeah. And that was really fun too, because one of the things that I told Kristen right before she gave the speech for the first time is, hey, I helped you write this, and so not all the words are going to tumble out easy, because we all, some people have trouble with R's or trouble with S's or K's or whatever, and whether it's you had a grandma from Minnesota who just put this little linguistic twist in your language, all of that. It's totally fine. And so I said, hey, go practice this like 3, 4, 5 times. Right. And then come back and tell me if there are any words that you need to be changed. And there were a couple, especially towards the end. She's like, it feels like I just can't deliver this part convincingly. So we went in and we fixed it. And now she gets to feel super confident in delivering this. And more importantly, with what the work her organization does, then all of these women and people are getting helped by that, by bringing other people along with the message, by helping introduce people to a resource that they have in the community that they may not realize that they have, and all literally in a day's work. It was so fun to do with her. So
it was fun to design that presentation as well.
Yeah. Another thing that we've done this year is that you and I both have released books.
That's right. Yeah. There was a lot of focus on that this year as well. Should we hold up our
Yes, let's do.
Our
Should we do 1, 2, 3?
Hey,
there we go.
Is this where we talk about them?
We can, sure. And so mine's called The Caring House. It is a novel that's based on a real life grief support center in Salt Lake City, and it's about what would happen if 2 children met, each unfortunately having lost a parent, and then they'd probably stay close. Would they grow up, maybe fall in love, get married, and then can a married life, can a marriage sustain the fear that you would lose one another the same way that you lost your parent? And, with as difficult as marriage is, with as many pressures and stresses as there are in life, can a marriage survive kind of that worry, that suspicion that you're going to lose each other, which honestly is the thing that we all kind of worry about when we say goodbye to a loved one, kiss them, watch them walk out the door, and hope that nothing bad happens until you see them again. And so this book is filled with hope. It's a way of kind of wrestling with some of life's biggest questions. It is for grown-ups, as I mentioned. It's a novel, and and the response to it's been so great. And working with you on it this year to design the cover and to design my personal brand, which is on the spine here.
Yeah, that's my real highlight, design highlight this year.
And then also on my personal website, all those things has been really great.
Yeah, and one thing to mention too, before I talk about mine, is that it's not like we reshuffled our organization earlier this year, so Raj then went and wrote a book. This is something he's been working on for a long time. When did you start the idea of the Caring House?
Almost 9 years ago now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's just been a long labor of love for him. And so for me to be able to come in towards the end and help with some of the design of it and the layout, it was really, really satisfying. It came out beautifully, and the book is amazing too. So definitely recommend it.
Thank you.
My book is for kids. It's called Escape from Tarikiak, and it's a book that I've been working on for about 6 years or so with my kids. So they kind of helped come up with the concept of the land of Turikiak, a lot that's filled with all these crazy creatures and stuff like that. It's basically about these three brothers who, while on a family vacation, they find themselves stranded on this mysterious island. They all get separated from one another. They each have their own kind of crazy adventures, and they're all trying to find each other so they can get off of the island and back to their family. And so the response from my book has been amazing. Raj and some of his kids have read it. And a lot of people read it before it went out to give me a lot of great feedback. And now it's just been a lot of fun to be able to have this whole new side of my life, which is like promoting this book, working on the next book because it's a series, and signing books and answering kids who are asking me when the next one's coming out. So feeling a lot of pressure right now.
Yeah. So, one of the things that you mentioned that this year we've been doing some things that we have never talked about. One of those was keynote presentation writing and design. We've helped people raise millions of dollars with keynotes, with decks.
Dude, it was so funny. Raj mentioned that when we were in Nashville, that this Access Period keynote was like probably his favorite project of the year. And I was kind of like, what? It's just like a presentation. We do those all the time. And then it kind of dawned on us, it's like, we do these a lot. And we've done some amazing presentations and helped, like Raj said, helped people do amazing things with their presentations.
Yeah. And I would never go as far as to say that we raised millions of dollars, like that the keynote did it, that it was that perfect. You have to have a great organization.
Yeah, we cannot guarantee
or a great product. And not only do we not guarantee it, but it's just like anything with branding or marketing, the thing has to be good. That's why on our website we talk about grow something good. Mm-hmm. We can help you grow something that is good. We don't want you to be the best kept secret. We want you to be out in the world with a clear message, with clear marketing plans. But with the right keynote, with the right messaging, you can accelerate that. And that's something that we've helped to do many, many times. So that's a product that we offer, and we're going to be talking a lot more about this year. The second thing, though, is that, in the process of learning we both self-publish our books, but we also know a lot about the process of traditional publishing because we both made a choice to go down the self-publishing route. And so this year we've had the opportunity to help people design their books.
Yes.
And even set up some self-publishing things for some of them. And so that's been an amazing thing. I think that was an unintended consequence, I think, of releasing books. Like,
isn't that what they say though? It's like when you start sharing that you do this thing, people will start coming. That was like one of the first things I started noticing when I first started talking about my book, and maybe you did too with yours. But people just starting to ask me questions about, I've got this book idea too, but I don't know what to do and which way should I go? Because it's kind of a crazy world, the publishing, self-publishing world, and there's so many elements to it. It can just be kind of daunting. But I just had so many people, and I still do have so many people coming out of the woodwork, just asking questions about what the choices that I made. Yeah. And so, it's been really fun. We've had an opportunity to do a few books this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so reach out for sure. Ask us if you are writing a book, if you're working on something, we'd love to design book covers, help you get set up in print on demand. Amazon does about 80% of the book sales in the US. And so if you're on the Amazon platform, even through their self-publishing, window, you're in the biggest bookstore in the world. Now, I absolutely love independent bookstores. I'm in several. It takes some work to get in with those folks. So please shop at, Postscript and the Bookworm. And if you're down in St. Joseph, Missouri, the Story Collective down there. And I know Ben's getting in some bookstores as well. But, if you're just getting started and need to at least get on Amazon or in other places, then that's something that we can help. And we'll talk more about that. In fact, drop a comment or send us a message if you want us to do a whole episode on self-publishing. That would be something we would love to do.
That'd be super fun.
Be interesting. We might do it anyway, even if people don't want it.
I think we should. We have a lot of cool things to say there. I think of a project actually two projects we just did with Josh Doetzler. Shout out to Josh Doetzler at Abide. Abide, a longtime client of ours. It was so fun to do their rebrand a few years back. But Josh, he saw that we both were coming out with books, and he's like, hey, I've got two books that I want to get out there, And so, yeah, I had the pleasure of getting to design the front and back covers of both of the books. Did some chapter illustrations for one of them. I wish I had a copy right here. We should flash it on the screen.
Yeah.
Really, really fun to do that. And he's got some more books in the works too. It'd be an honor to do those for him.
Yeah, one of his books in particular that I'll call out is called Playing on Purpose. And it's a sports book for, kind of geared towards kids. But it will work for athletes of any age. It's told in kind of the fable style what's that business book that's told in that style? Is it six dysfunctions of a team, right?
It's like 6 or 7. I don't.
But
I only practice 5
in that way where kind of in a fictionalized way, you can get into the principles of the story a little bit easier without having to kind of feel like you're eating your vegetables. It's a great,
really well written
book. Building character into young athletes, which you and I are both soccer dads now, and all that. It's a great.
I thought you were gonna say we're both athletes.
They can see us.
You could be maybe a mathlete. I don't know. I'm not even that.
Graphlete?
Rathlete. Not that either.
Spooky.
Subscribe and ring that bell.
So this year's been full of some surprises, but our demise has been greatly exaggerated.
That's right.
No, we're
still kicking.
Been very busy all year, and I love that we found a great rhythm. I think is where I kind of am wrapping up the year, feeling like it took probably 8 or 9 months after completely changing the way that we did things as a company. We were still delivering client work the whole time, but there were some kind of reinventing the wheel moments where we're like, okay, why is this not the same as it used to be? And it's because it's not the same. And what we found is that we can do it better, but it took a little bit of engineering on our part and with Michelle to get those things going. And now I'm just really, really excited about next year.
Yes, me too.
For the work that's coming. So speaking of that, a lot of agencies have had very interesting years because of the presidential election, because of AI, and because I think everybody was kind of just waiting for the market to be normal again. Really since end of 21, obviously into 2020 as well. But now we're coming up on 5 years. Since 2020, and
isn't that crazy?
And so we kind of have to give up on the idea that things are going to go back to normal. This is normal now.
The new normal, yeah.
Yeah, and so but that does kind of leave you with the question of what's the purpose of an agency in 2025? What should people hire an agency to do in 2025 when they have all of these AI resources, when they have probably smaller budgets than they had, even 3 or 4, 5 years ago? They might have smaller teams. They might have the same budget, but a smaller team. And so there's more work on each individual person.
Right.
I'd love to kind of, just hear from you, what should somebody be hiring an agency to do for them now, as opposed to farming out to AI or maybe even hiring internally to do?
Yeah, I think, kind of in the same way that how, we had to kind of pare ourselves down, and now we can work on a more fractional basis with collaborators. I think thinking of an agency as just more of an extension of yourself, and hiring, small agencies, much like our own, to really kind of help with ongoing things in small but meaningful ways. Does that make sense?
Totally. Now, you said small agencies, which I think is an interesting term. I think one of the things that happened this year is people saw us get smaller and thought that meant trouble. And this has happened before, right? You pay a guy who shows up in a truck to do your roof, and he's like, well, I need some money to go get the shingles. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. So you give him a check, then he drives off and never comes back. And so people are naturally skeptical of small entities. But what's happening in our industry is that you have this kind of bifurcation that's happening where you have very big agencies, you have 10 million plus agencies, and then you have people like us who've been in the industry. I mean, you're going on almost 20 years in the industry now.
It's kind of crazy.
Which is weird because I'm older than you. But
I started very young.
Yeah, it's true. Yes.
I mean, I really did.
You did, yeah. So you've been in the industry for almost 20 years. I've been in for more than 10. And so like we're solid. We're staying. We're not going anywhere. This is the most stable job I've ever had.
Yeah.
When I was in the nonprofit world, it was much less stable. And now part of that had to do with economic times in that time. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing this longer than I've been doing anything else. And I hope you can hear it. Like I'm more excited now about the work that we're doing than I've ever been.
Same.
Partly because I get to be more engaged with the work than I've ever been. And so part of it really comes down to is like between hiring a small agency and hiring a large agency is like, what do you need and what do you want out of that experience? If you need a fully fledged, optimized across social media and SEO and, click-through rate and e-commerce and kind of all those things, then yeah, you might need to go with one of those big agencies. We do that work. We do it more boutique and bespoke.
Yeah.
But if you need the Nike level of capability for an agency, then yeah, sometimes you have to go with those $10 million plus agencies. Unfortunately, what happens there is that you are going to get a whole team of people working on it, and every agency of that size is incentivized to do work as cheaply as possible. And so if the intern or the new guy can be put on it, then that's who they're going to put on it until you complain, basically. Right. And I'm not throwing those people under the bus. So like we know a lot of those people, they work really, really hard, but just in order to kind of keep the wheels turning, when you're working with large agencies, they have to minimize their costs because they're competing just like we are against AI, against people who are offshore, all those things. And
it's a hard business.
Oh yeah.
And the people on the top of it are worrying about their business most of the time and working on the business.
Yeah. And we kind of joke a lot about, kind of feeling like the Muppets. And, I was actually just talking at lunch about this where, the basis of like half of the Muppet movies are, them just wanting to put the show on. Like either the theater's in danger or the show's in danger because some rich muckety-muck executive is trying to keep them from putting the show on. When you said this is a hard business, that was the first thing I thought of is like, we just want to put the show on. Even the people in the big agencies.
We are the Muppets. This is really our dream come true.
It is, yeah. Mike, if you want to AI us into being Muppets for this part of the podcast, that's fine. It's time to meet the Muppets. No, but it kind of goes one of two ways. Then you either have to get kind of that huge level where you need insurance companies and banks and all those people to do 6-figure retainers with you every month, and then you have to deliver that as affordably as possible. That's one option. The other option is to go with people who are smaller, like us, where you're working with the. We don't have like super real titles, but, like the president and CEO or whatever of the company. We say that I'm the brand strategist principal and he's the design principal, and that did mean more when we had 11 employees, but it's still true though. Like we haven't changed. In fact, our experience has only grown in the last few years. Yeah, especially as we get back into the work more and less into the managing and worrying about the agency piece of it. And and with that, we come with a host of contractors that are the best in their fields. They're the principal and or president, CEO, whatever of their own companies. They're the videographers and film producers. They're the animators. They're the coders. And we've had so many different instances in the last couple of years of people saying, we really like you, but we don't necessarily want to be on Squarespace. And it's like, that's fine. We have a Webflow developer, or we have WordPress developer, and or we can do it completely custom code if you want, And so there are these ways of doing it differently. Whereas, again, with a larger agency, a lot of the times they're going to want you to do it the way that fits their process, because they have to kind of keep the wheel cranking. And we have purposefully gone back to being more boutique in the best way.
Right.
It's like when you go to, there's always that moment in movies where people have kind of their glow up moment, where they go to the custom suit store for the first time, or the gal gets the custom dress for the first time. And that's what you get when you work with a company like ours. So that, that's a great point. Thinking of us as an extension of your team. A lot of times that happens when people are doing something new. So Children's Nebraska being a great example here of wanting to support the well-being of their staff and providers there. So these people are as healthy as they can possibly be, and that they can treat children without burning out. And so they can keep going, keep doing beautiful work that they do. And but this is a big lift for a team.
Oh, yeah.
And so treating us like an extension of their team, we go and meet with them on site. And I feel welcome in that building. Like, even the receptionist is getting to know me a little bit and recognize me, which is great. And then she's always got a bowl of mints on her desk that I steal one every time. But
it's not stealing if she's putting out there for you. Are they her personal mints in her purse or something?
No, I don't think so. I think they are free.
I think you're good. Yeah, as long as you pay them back at some time.
Yeah.
2 years from now, you just dump a whole bag of mints.
Yeah. So extension of your team, similar again for the work that we're doing for them, for Ligonier, that as teams and budgets become more conservative because stuff has been so unpredictable lately, it doesn't mean that you're not going to keep trying to do things. It means that now you sometimes have to go outside to launch that new thing, and we're here for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been fun to take Ligonier, for example. Like, they've got great art directors and designers. They have a team. I think it is probably leaner than it was in times past. So they needed just key collaborators they can bring in for very specific kinds of things, because they're busy. They're busy doing a lot of other things. Even people, again, companies who have some design or strategy resources, they can be balancing so many different things that it's really important for them to have some folks that can support them in their mission.
Yeah, it's similar to when we did work with Thrasher. It was the same thing. They've got a great marketing team over there, great designers. And then when they needed to do a different level of work focusing on hiring, then their people are busy helping to market and sell. Exactly. And then when you need to do a new initiative like focus on hiring, then we're great partners to bring in.
Well, and I think too, something that I remember Dan Thrasher saying at that time, and I've heard other people say it too, it's just so helpful to have that outside experience too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's good to have you need to have an internal team for certain things, for lots of things. But there are certain kinds of projects that's just really helpful to have someone who's maybe not in that industry.
Yeah, fresh eyes.
Fresh eyes, exactly. Get some fresh eyes on it. That's very, very valuable.
Yeah. So we have the extension of your team is a great time to hire an agency like ours. The other one is for foundational work. This year, something really surprising happened for us.
What was that?
We learned to love Canva.
Oh, no. Are we going to talk about this?
Yeah, of course we are. Yeah. So Canva was kind of a dirty word in the design world for a long time because it was a little kitschy, I think is probably the word that I would use, where people would come up with things. There were all these templates, right? For presentation decks, for documents, all that kind of stuff. And they looked good, but it was hard to explain.
It's very templatey. Well, the thing is,
it's kind of like an Applebee's meal, sort of,
Yeah,
where it's
exactly.
Like, if you're hungry, it'll probably satisfy, but it's not unique. And sometimes when you slap your logo on there, it's just like, yeah, we can tell this isn't homemade kind of thing.
Right. And it's like geared to consumers, not professionals. And so the joke in the design community is that, Canva is kind of like the design app for your mom, where it's basically all these templates and stuff like that. It's easy to use.
Geared towards consumers,
geared towards consumers, not professionals. And so, there's this stigma. Probably a stigma created by Adobe so they don't lose our money. But we had so many clients that use Canva, and, we're all about putting, the client is the hero in our story, and we're their guide. And so what's going to be easy for them to use and whatnot. So we finally, I can't remember which project was the first one, kind of tiptoed into it, like, okay, we'll make this, Canva thing for them this one time.
I think it was at their request.
Their request. They wanted to use it. And that's when I started realizing why people like Canva so much. It is so easy to use. But even beyond that, there's features in Canva that Adobe programs can't do. They have ways of loading in certain brand templates. You can have all of your logo files, your company images, your colors, your paragraph style. It can all be there in this in a nice, tidy little package, which is so helpful to our clients. And so, weirdly enough, this year, there's a handful of projects that we'll do for clients in Canva, including now building out their brand assets, their brand booklets. And so that's something that I don't know that I saw coming, but, we talked about this when we did our Squarespace episode a while back, that we're really, we try to be as agnostic as possible when it comes to the platform. Yeah. It's all about serving the client. It's about accomplishing the goal. Now, I'm probably not going to design a logo in Canva yet, but I'm not going to rule it out someday. Like, who knows? These things, this world is the world is changing so fast in some of these areas. To just go with this like stigma is just not really helpful. One thing I will say that was kind of funny, when we were in Nashville, we were chatting with some Australian story brand guides, and I didn't know Canva is an Australian company. Oh yeah. And I made some comment about like, oh yeah, I know you're not supposed to use Canva, but we started using it, and they just like looked at me like, why? Like what else would you use? It's like there's no stigma over there in Australia. Apparently, that's just what everyone uses for design.
There's probably like the Canva, football arena or whatever down there. Rugby arena. Well, and I want to be clear too. When you say like we're not going to design logos in Canva anytime soon, I think what you mean when you said you're not going to rule it out. One of the reasons that the platform has such a stigma is because there are a lot of either stock or AI elements that, people, it's like, create a logo for a donut shop or whatever. And, and like, it's fine, like it's maybe even good enough, but it's not that next level of, of personal identity, of standing out and all that. And the more that stuff is mass generated in this world, especially through AI generation, then the more that things that are unique and distinct stand out.
Exactly.
And so when you say that we're not ruling out creating our logos in there, you mean that until they release professional level tools like like the ability to make vector logos that can scale up to the size of a building or a billboard, then we're not going to use that tool for that. We're never going to use the tool to make AI logos or stock logos, right? Because there is that huge difference in what we do versus what the tool does currently. I just want to clarify that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's like I'm not going to rule out making stock logos in the future. No, we're not absolutely not going to do that.
That's not what I meant.
So this year we started using Canva, and part of the reason for that is because when you load those foundational brand assets, like you talked about, into Canva, I've got a client who we loaded all of her brand assets in there. We found a great keynote template for her in there. And then I clicked, I think it was like one or two buttons, and it changed all of the colors in that in that template to her brand colors.
And you can like shuffle them too.
Oh my gosh. And I'm not talking about just like, the fonts, the background. I'm talking about like the design elements on there. There were these little like moons or whatever, these different kind of spacey looking elements in there, and they changed colors. And I was like, whoa. And that, I mean, having led a design agency for almost 10 years now, I know how much that would cost to do just to have even our youngest, most inexperienced person sit there, click, 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 click to change all of them.
Right.
I mean, at minimum, hundreds of dollars, and Canva did it instantly. That's powerful. That for me was the moment where I go, oh, I get it. I get why not only can our clients use this? But in some cases should.
Exactly.
We don't want our clients to overpay ever for anything. If there are things that they can and want to do for themselves, we want to set them up to do that. And loading their brand assets automatically into that program can help. It does prevent some of the mistakes that people have made in the past with, it always will kill me when I see somebody create a PowerPoint and then they put their logo on there and it's like, they make the PowerPoint background black and then their logo's in a white box on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, oh no, please don't, Canva helps avoid some of those problems.
It really does. It's harder to mess things up in Canva.
It's not perfect.
No.
You still do sometimes need a little polish, a little revision, but it is, 90 times easier than PowerPoint or Google Slides even.
Yeah,
right
for
now.
sure.
So we talked about as an extension of your team, it's good to hire an agency right now. And then this foundational work. And I want to talk about that for a little bit more. We talked about it from the Canva angle, from the branding angle, but really what we're finding between AI and Canva, there's even new apps that are coming for, shortening podcasts into, short form clips, all those types of things. You have to have the right inputs to put into those machines.
Right.
You have to have a great brand. You have to have really clear messaging to put into these machines in order for them to even come close to outputting correctly. We're still at a stage where most of the stuff I would not put directly in front of your audience, but if you put the right ingredients in, we're seeing people get 80, 90% of the way there. And that can be with marketing emails, blog posts, those types of things. And some of it does exceed what humans can do in terms of, if you say, hey, here are the SEO keywords I want to rank for, write this article for this, that's going to do it more naturally than a human going, gosh, I'm not sure how to put Chinese restaurants near me into a sentence that doesn't sound like it was written for robots, And when the robots write for robots, they actually do it pretty okay. But you do have to put great brand voice in there. You have to put great brand messaging that's really clear and differentiates you from your competitors, positions you as the guide to your customer success, positions them as the hero of the story. There's a lot of work that you have to do to even feed the machine. And we can help you train your Canva, train your AI to get you that kind of output. We see ourselves now kind of the at the source of the river where we're helping things flow downstream. And our industry has changed in that way. I mean, even in just a couple of years, it's really changed in that way. But we're still saying that you have to put the right elements in there. So helping you get the foundations of your brand right, even if you're an established brand,
Right.
You might have been around for, 50 or 100 years, but I can guarantee you that your messaging will need attention in that time, and your design will need attention in that time, especially as you're moving into a rapidly changing technological era where you're feeding stuff to AI. You're going to want that stuff to be as sharp, as clean as possible.
Yeah, no, that's really good, Raj.
So last thing I would say, if you're hiring an agency in 2025, we talked about extending your team. We talked about doing that great foundational brand messaging work and design work, your branding work, your website. Last thing I would say is when you're trying to do something absurdly awesome, that is something that I think, like I talked about, kind of how AI is sort of kind of Applebee'sing everything, it's
Now I just want some Applebee's.
I had a friend once who kind of lamented that you see the same Cisco truck drive from one restaurant to another restaurant to another restaurant with the same ingredients on it. And I think that some of that's maybe a little unwarranted because, like a tomato is a tomato within.
Is it?
There are a lot of different types, but they're a tomato, and what you do with it is partly what matters. But he did have a point in that, it's not so much that it's bad that the same truck is delivering the groceries to each place. It's that each place is kind of making their recipes off of what this giant conglomerate can offer them. And so everything is kind of middle of the road. It's the tomato that kind of tastes the best to the average person. And as opposed to like you've got your beefsteak tomatoes and you got your little cherry tomatoes and your grape tomatoes and all these things that like might be better for the recipe, but if it's not in the catalog, you can't get it. Mm-hmm. And for a fair amount of business, that's okay. Mm-hmm. Most of us are going to use Microsoft or Google for our email work, and most of us are going to use a Mac or a PC for our work. Like there are a lot of like broad applies to everybody options out there in the world. But, we've had the chance to read the book Unreasonable Hospitality this year, written by Will Guidara, who, advised on the show The Bear, who was, the CEO of 11 Madison Park up in New York City, one of the best restaurants in the world, and is known for these unreasonable acts of hospitality. You should definitely read that book.
Crazy stuff.
We got to hear him speak in Nashville this year.
That's right. Store brand.
And we have clients who are so driven by their mission that they at times want to do things that are absurdly awesome, that are more than you could ever ask from AI or from a stock image site. Things that so we worked with Dave Miller from Leadership Pathway this year, and he wanted to shake it up in creating a booth, and he wanted a booth that would stand out among all of the other vendors at this big conference, and I love Dave because he's really willing to go for like a bold headline and an image that will really really work. What Dave ended up doing is Dave works with getting young people placed in church residencies. So higher level than an internship, but not quite to the level of being hired on staff full time.
Right.
And the reason he does his work is because most people who join a church staff kind of flush out of that system within a couple of years. The stats are really bad. More people are retiring than there are people to replace them. All of that. And he found that the stat is very very similar to the stat in plumbing for whatever reason. That there are way more plumbers retiring every year than there are young people to replace them, and we don't have a decreasing number of toilets in the U.S. There's still a huge need for plumbers. I would say probably larger than ever, because that's not a thing you can automate. Like you can't. AI is not going to plunge your toilet. AI is not going to snake your drain. You need an actual human for this. And so Dave, found this great statistic and made the point that in his industry, the stats are actually worse than they are for the number of plumbers that are retiring and the number of plumbers that are being trained up to replace them. And so we have to make this card with a cute tagline about that, and then he actually handed out tiny plungers at the booth. Now you're talking a church conference, right? Where you've got pastors and you've got just a bunch of like ministries that are trying to do good things in the world, and then you have this one crazy guy handing out plungers, and it's like, who are they going to remember? It's like they're gonna remember the guy who was bold enough to hand out plungers.
They'd probably remember Dave either way.
I mean, yeah.
He's a pretty memorable guy.
But that kind of thing is what I'm talking about, is that there are times where you just want to stand out. You just want to be different. And creativity is not going anywhere. These tools that are out there to help us now with AI are great. This is probably a little bit different tune than we were seeing a couple of years ago. They've gotten a lot better. There are still a lot of problems.
Sure.
And there are a lot of ethical issues around this too that we have to consider. But the tools have gotten a lot better, and they still are not to the point where they can generate these ideas for you. They're a great, at most, brainstorming partner. But then you have to figure out, like Dave had to figure out that connection, between plumbing and his industry in order to come to us and say, okay, how can I make this compelling and interesting? And then we collaborate together. You have to have great ingredients to put in the machine in order to get a great output. And so if somebody wants to do something absurdly awesome, a keynote.
We're always down for that.
Yeah, a keynote that really delivers, a booth design that really stands out and is memorable, a website that catches people's attention, that aims for the audience that you're trying to reach.
Swag that you actually want to wear.
100%. A book cover that will stand out on a bookshelf. There are so many things, that go into a book cover that make it look bookstore quality, even just down to this barcode, right here. There are so many things that have to be 100% right in order for something to stand out in the right way in the world and not in the, this looks like it was.
Oh yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. Those are good things to hire agencies for, is when you really want to stand out, when you want to expand your team, when you need that great foundational work to help your company and your team, no matter their budget, no matter their capacity, to be able to do so much more than they could have done on their own. Those are great times to hire an agency in 25, which is different than it might have been even just a few years ago. There are maybe fewer flyers and emails and those kinds of things that people need help with. But for these larger foundational things, or for when you're bringing on a project that your team just doesn't have the capacity for, or when you're swinging for the fences and you want to do something cool, those would be great times to hire an agency in 25.
Thanks for joining us today on Growing a Fruitful Brand. If you found today's show helpful, don't forget to subscribe and consider sharing it with someone who might also enjoy it.
If you'd like to work with Fruitful on a branding, website, or messaging project of your own, you can always reach out on our website, fruitful.design.
But until next time, don't forget to grow something good.